You said there were two. That you said there were two things.
That's it. So that's that, like, so it was the why does it work sometimes, and secondly, when I actually started to really examine about
Okay.
and self love really, and I actively promote self love for self,
Hmm.
you know, and
What changed your thoughts, Chris?
when I really where I started to sort of write more, and I got asked about things a lot more, so I had to sort of start to examine things that had happened in my life and what effect it had had on me. And then I worked with someone that really wanted to delve deeply into my attempt at suicide, and it was the first time I'd really looked at that.
Hmm. Did
And
anything happen in? Sorry to interrupt you there, Chris. But did anything happen early on in your life that might have driven you to think, you don't have enough respect for yourself?
oh, Neil, it's a big story, mate. That one.
Okay, but if you can capture it, maybe in
Um,
a couple of minutes, just to
Look,
sort of say what might have happened, because I think if there's anybody listening into to this um, at some point,
I was born in 1959, a premature baby,
right?
and and at the time, premature babies didn't have a big success rate back then, you know.
Hmm.
So I started my life off sort of as on my own. So I was left at hospital, um, and I also sort of grew up with this misconception that my dad resented me. My dad was quite an old dad. You know, I do believe that I was a mistake, if you like. Um, I
Okay.
wasn't meant, and
Okay.
it kind of set up this self-loathing, really, of self.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to put it in a nutshell, I had no respect for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I can understand better now because of what you just because of what you said, and I think if I was to try and get something across through this conversation, one of the points would be to learn from what you've just said in terms of the significance and importance of your parents and what your parents might say or do as a child, and be careful with your words. That is all I'd say. And I think you, interestingly, I know you know that because of the fact that you now have said yourself that you're very careful with the words. And I think it's important. Thank you, though, Chris, for talking about that. I appreciate that. I think it's not easy to do that. Chris Lewis, you've obviously been listening in to what Chris is saying. I'd be interested to get your thoughts from your experience.
Actually, yeah, I've got a similar situation there, fun enough, Neil, and I'm sure that you doing this, arranging this talk, you probably might have thought there might be. Chris, that was very powerful, man. I could say that was very powerful. So yeah, I've got 2 points. I've got two real breaks in my life where the difference was made. So the first one was same as you, Chris. Really. I had no self-worth as a kid because my father, he didn't really think I was any good at anything, and he was good at the stuff he did, but he didn't have any patience for anyone who wasn't. And so God knows how I did, but I got through school and I got into the grammar school, local grammar school as it was then. But I think that I was punching above my ability there, and I was always like bottom of the class. and my dad gave me a hammering for it. But actually, what sort of got me out of problems there was my personality. I think it was that I always used to make people laugh. So all I wasn't learning anything, but people weren't taking the piss out of me. My peers, you know, they enjoyed hanging around me. So I got through that, and I couldn't wait to get out of school. Because it was just hell for me, you know, and I just thought, you know, university and all that's going to be more years of hell. I've got to get out of here and go and do something, whatever it is. I have to get away from this. And I ended up going to work, bearing in mind I was at the best grammar school, I ended up going to work in Waitrose, the supermarket, when it was really small. And I got a job just as an assistant in there. You know, I was earning a few bob a week. And I just, because I couldn't wait to get out of school. And it was then that I realised, I mean, I got promoted. I was the youngest department manager, the youngest this manager, that manager, the other manager, right? And I suddenly realised I was quite good at stuff. And for the first time, I realised I was good. So then I carried on and I got the confidence to work for myself, of which I did for the last sort of 25, 30 years of my work. You know, I turned into that. And I was confident. So you know, my business, I started a business from nothing with my pals, and we got to an £8 million turnover when I got sick. We started with absolutely nothing. So I was a confident guy. Then I went into the cancer sector, right? And I thought I was probably overconfident, actually. And I was. And no one knew I was there. And I was like, don't you know who I am? Look what I've done. You know, I've made this big business. And there we were all in hospital with these gowns, you know, with their arse hanging out. And you never knew who was next to you, right? Whether he was a lord, whether he was a dustman, whether he was a politician or what he was, he still had his arse hanging out, right?
Oh, that's brilliant.
So that's where I thought to myself, hey, you know, what I've done counts for sod all in this world, right? It really doesn't. So when I came out, that really was a bad bash to me. I mean, I kept in contact, of course, with my business pals, but I was getting further and further away from business. And I wanted to do cancer. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn more about why does this have such a big impact. Anyway, I was lucky. There was a course around run by Macmillan in those days. It was free, and it involved a bit of studying, which I wasn't really good at school. Anyway, I went along. So it was one day study, and the next day, it was 2 days a month. One day study, and another day writing it all up and doing all that stuff. And I said to the woman in charge, I said, look, because they had a selection process. I said, I might not be very good at that. I was never any good at school. And she said, oh, no, don't worry about that. You sound like a bit of fun. Come along, right? We'll see you. We won't waste our time with you. Anyway, after a couple of sessions, she pulled me aside and she said, after what you told me, I was watching you in the class, as it were. And she said, you've got talent like you wouldn't believe. And I said, what's that talent? And she said, actually talking to people, right? And I said, bloody hell. I said, if I'd have only known that talking to people was a talent, I'd have made more money. But what that taught me was, because I never thought I was any good at anything, you know, I just move A to B and take a profit, right? That's what I did simply. I was an entrepreneur. Buy for one price and sell for more, all being well. And that was easy money for me. But she said, if you want to do something in cancer, you have the perfect skills to do it. She said, you will go a long way. And that gave me that confidence that because I thought, I'd gone backwards. I thought I was a nothing person again in this world. Yeah. You know, but what I had was those soft skills, I guess, that you take. You don't assume, you know what I mean? If you've got bits of paper like you guys, you know, I never had any bits of paper, nothing that showed anything.
Oh, Chris, school for me was very, very similar to you. In fact, I almost left school at 13.
Yeah.
because I came out of school with absolutely no qualifications at all. You know, I have gained qualifications later on in life in things that I'm passionate about, but that's because I'm passionate about it. That's why I've been able to get the, you know, and with you, you know, and I suppose I often describe myself as my only skill is I've got a big mouth. You know, and sort of 20.
That's why I brought the two of you together.
Yeah, you were spot on there, Neil. Actually, my wife says if I was paid by the word, she said we could live anywhere.
You know, I've been a licensed trade for over 20 years. You know, used to have pubs and clubs. You know, and I was at my happiest in a crowd of probably 700-800 people. You know, like, yeah.
But it's funny you say that, Chris, actually, because pre-COVID, you know, I was fortunate. I found an area people wanted to hear from me, and I suppose I taught cancer in an entertaining way, right? Look, you're an actually entertaining guy, so are you, Neil. We've all got our own personality, but there's very few that stand up on stage and do it like I do. But when Zoom came, I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore, because I don't want to do it on Zoom. It's not the same. I don't want to talk to faceless people. I'm not talking about today, but right. You know, where there's loads and loads of people there. I said, I need the feedback to be able to give it out. Do you know what I mean? And you get the feedback from that physical audience. I know what you're talking about exactly.
Either of you may have interesting questions for each other because of what you've heard or experiences.
Okay, so when you receive that news, you know, that news that no one wants to hear, and I think that word cancer is potentially one of the scariest words in language. Full stop. You know, where did your power come from to get to where you are now?
Mrs. L, I think. No, it's not as simple as that. That's a great question, actually, Chris. That is a great question. I suppose, you know, having the look, and I'm sure Neil will tell us this, that you know, all of our issues, whatever issues we have in later life, come from the things that we've dealt with in earlier life, and we've touched on it, right, with our childhood and our parenting and whatever. And so having got to that age of 51, where nothing, you know, I passed my driving test first time, you know, I was just used to everything rolling with me. And that came, and I thought, and you're right, that word cancer, sorry, let me step back a little bit, just a little bit, because before they found my cancer, I had to have my tonsils out, because that was one of the original problems. And so they took me in, and they said, oh yeah, your tonsils are swelling up, we're going to need to take them out. And so I went in and I had this operation to take my tonsils out. And just as I was going down, the surgeon guy said to me, he said, this is quite an unusual operation for someone of your age. And I thought, why did he say that? And then I was out and I came back and I had a couple of weeks off work, because it's quite painful as an adult to have your tonsils out. And then I went back to work and I got a call from the hospital, and the hospital said, could you come back? We want to do a checkup. And I went home and I said to my missus, yeah, this is good, isn't it? Everyone they moan about the NHS. Right, but I said, you know, the hospital, they're calling me back just for the old boy with the tonsils. And she said, they're calling you back. I said, yeah. She said, I'm coming with you, right? And I said, why? I said, I'm only going to Tooting, and the guy's just going to have a look at the tonsils. And I was feeling bright as a button. Anyway, she came with me, and I still never saw it coming. She saw it coming. She was in the room. So when he told us the news, luckily she was in the room. So she heard it at the same time as I did. And he said, you know, do you want to sit down? I said, no, not really. Do you want to sit down? Because that's like I said earlier, I felt sorry for him having to give the news. But after that, I was lucky. I was with my wife. I didn't have to tell her. She knew it. And on the way home, we were talking about, we had to get on the tube. And I said to her, what the hell am I going to do for work? And she said, what are you talking about work for? You just heard it. You might not be here in 6 months. I said, because I've always done work. You know, how am I going to do the money thing? How's that all going to work? But it was just, I don't know, I took it in little projects, Chris, in answer to that question, I think. Because I'm a business guy, right? Yes, you have to look at the whole picture, but that doesn't necessarily do you any good. You have to take little chunks at a time and find your little wins. So, you know, my journey was getting the chemotherapy and getting through that, staying alive through the chemotherapy. So I did that. Finding a stem cell donor that was a match to me, we did that. And I was starting, that my little bit of confidence was starting to come back, because I'm like, oh, okay. And now we're going into the stem cell room, and you're going to be in there for 6 weeks, isolated. All this is going to happen to you. You might not come out the other side. Then I came out the other side, and I'm starting to think, that's it. My luck's rolling. You know, I'm rolling now. I'm back on it again. So my confidence just came back, and every challenge that came, I would just try and knock it out of the park. And you know what my missus said to me? She said, you're not going to die like they say. She said, you're just such a lucky guy. You're not going to die like that. So it was just like overcoming each little hurdle, well, they were big hurdles, but each hurdle came, I got over it, and I became more confident in that world then. Because not only is it frightening, you know, hearing that word cancer, but it's bloody frightening when you're in an isolation unit, when all you've got is 24/7 nurses coming in to wipe your ass, give you chemicals, you know, to do all that sort of thing. That's very a humbling scenario, let's say, when you're sitting there on your own thinking, how the hell did I get here? I'm 51, you know, how did I do that? I've got nothing from school. How did I get even this far? And if I make it out of here, what the hell am I going to do then? Because I knew I was stuffed physically. But it was just that determination, I suppose, in one word, not positive mental attitude, because I've always been positive. Okay, I'll give you one, Chris. So this is my experience of illness. I mean, I never had any up till I got cancer. I'd never even been in a hospital as an inpatient, right? So I was 51, and so that was a really, suddenly to be told, bang, you got to have on chemo, stem cell transplant, that was quite a shocking thing. And I'm not a religious guy, by the way. I'm not, and I never have been. And I wondered whether, you know, I was going to certainly see a lot of dark days. I wondered whether I might turn that way, but I didn't, because I did have some times when I was literally one day away, and they said, would you like to see the local chaplain or whatever, and I didn't. So what I was going to say was, what that led me to understand from my own area was that I had faith, but not a sort of religious faith. I had faith in what I was doing. And I always say to people, whatever does it for you. Do you know what I mean? And I come back to the food issue with you. You believed. You had. So I believe in other things. I'm not talking God or anything else, but I make a decision and go with it. So I have faith in what I'm doing. Maybe misplaced, but I have that faith. Did religion or anything play any part in your situation?
No, I'm very much like you. I am not a religious person, but I think through my journey of self empowerment, if you like, I now realise that I am a spiritual person. I see the power of nature. I see the power of creation, if you like, in nature, and I see that power within ourselves as well. I would probably be described in my previous self. This person that's sitting here now is a bit of a tree hugger, I would say. You know.
Oh, really? Okay.
In a way, because it's, you know, like we used to talk about, you know, when there was, you know, they was trying to stop a road and there was all these people living up bloody trees and all that sort of stuff.
Swampy.
Yeah, but I'm not like that. But you will often find me out in nature and I'll be just looking and studying the contours of bark on a tree, or how the little lines in leaves are, and I just find it, unbelievably beautiful.
Healing?
And it's so stealing. Yes, I do, and it's calm. And you're just paying attention to the present on purpose, and I think that is just an amazing. It has an amazing therapeutic power over a human being. Yeah. So I would describe myself as spiritual, but not religious. No.
It's interesting, Chris. Before you said the word spiritual, I was gonna interrupt and actually say, "Are you spiritual?" I thought that would be, I feel the same way. And my dad, funnily enough, although he was an ordained minister, he was initially an ordained minister before he became a psychologist. He never wore a dog collar when I saw him in the pulpit. It was a shirt and tie. He never believed in wearing dog collars. He was more spiritual than religious, really. He used to say, with a dog collar, it felt like you were a bull over a gate. And also the other aspect was interesting. When he would see his patients in the wards, never once would he mention that he was a minister, because he realized in some cases, not in all cases, it was a barrier to conversations. If you mentioned that you were a minister, people would maybe close up, and he didn't want that, obviously, in his work. And I just thought, I found it really extraordinary and really interesting.
I mean, what you said there, Neil, was really, really interesting, because some people, when you mention, well, whatever it is, you know, it doesn't matter what the subject is, but let's say religion. So if you get confronted by someone who is against what you believe, if you like, that sets up this intention in our brains of being attacked. So you go on the defensive straight away, don't you? If you have not got an open mind and you are not prepared to listen to that person, you go into that fight or flight response automatically, because you feel like you're being attacked, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So your father was a great man, because he's a very, very knowledgeable man. Very, very knowledgeable.
Well, he came from life experiences, really. Came from his own life experiences, and he used them in a way that enabled him to understand more the person he was talking to, and I think to make them feel at ease and comfortable too, which I think was a very important skill. And I think that's what I love about talking with both of you, is you may not realize it, I think you do, you've both got a fantastic skill in making people feel comfortable and at ease, because of your backgrounds, because of who you are. And that is important. It's so important. You can maybe perhaps talk to people, converse with them in a way that they understand and allows them to open up. Because of the nature of the prognosis, Chris, and the way that you were given the news, personally, when somebody gives you a prognosis that says, well, you've got terminal cancer, what that can do, because I've heard it from some people, is it can suddenly make you think, well, my next day is one day nearer to dying. I don't think you believe like that, and I'm interested to know what changed you, or what made you think that's not happening to me, because that's an important message for anybody who may be given that diagnosis to hear, that they can switch their mindset and change it to be very different to what might happen.
Yeah, great question again, and I know the answer to that. And again, it's like business, right? So because that's my background, I probably associate everything in a business analogy, if you like, and it's come even with COVID. I've done it even with COVID, right? So we're used to things happening quickly. Probably most of us haven't noticed it, but COVID was the one thing that no matter what we were planning in our lives, everything changed, right? Doesn't matter how concrete everything was, it wasn't anymore. So I found this with business, that, you know, you can go sailing along happily, talking to people about their business, how it can be better, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue comes something which throws all those ideas out the window. You know, you found some dodgy accountant, or you found some massive mistake that's going on somewhere else. So all your plans of how you're going to solve that problem have gone back to zero again. So this is what happened to me in my life. We planned to retire early. I mean, I was 51 then. We knew that health was going to become an issue, even if it wasn't at that stage. My wife had retired early. She's a bit older than me. So we said, well, we're going to go and do a bit of traveling. I mean, we'd already done traveling, but maybe stay 6 months in somewhere like Australia, hire a house and just move around like that. But what happened was, so as I was diagnosed with cancer, everything went back to zero again. So all my plans and everything were tossed out the window. Now that wasn't as bad as it feels, because I'm used to doing that. Right? I'm used to starting again. So I had a different project this time. This project was now me. And I said to my wife, I said, listen, I'm going into this room. Obviously, they were allowed to visit, but in strict circumstances. I said, you might not like what you see, what goes on in this room, but my first plan is to succeed in getting out of it, getting out of the room. That's my first project. And then we'll deal with each little bit as it comes along.
Would you say you had a reset moment in your life?
Oh, definitely. And I'm sure, like you are, Chris, I'm a very different, listen, I'm a very different person. Sometimes I wake up, you know, I was working in the rag trade. I was working in the East End. I knew hoodlums and all of those scams of the business. I knew it all. But I wasn't part of it, because actually I'm a good guy. I've always been a good guy. And actually, I needed a USP. We all need that to do what we're doing, right? I needed a USP. And the USP was by being a good guy, right? Mm-hmm. And so in a business that was full of rotten people. So when I came out of this and came into the cancer world, I became, I'm not saying I was a saint by any means. I wasn't, you know, I did go on the odd dodgy bit, but as a whole, I kept my own principles. But when I came out of this, my sole raison d'etre, if you like, became helping others. So when I discovered that talent, as you say, I could talk to people. What happened was that I was able to, God knows, I'd never written anything since bad exam papers since I was 15, right? And suddenly people said to me, write a blog because people will be interested in that. So I didn't know about writing or any bloody thing like that. But within a year of writing, I'd won the world, not world, England's, UK's best health blogger in 2014. That was 1 year after I started writing.
Wow, fantastic.
So, no, I didn't say it for that reason. I didn't say it for that. Thank you, Chris. I didn't say it for that reason. But what happened was that success, if you like, kept rolling.
Yes.
So it became easier. Everything I touched turned to gold, and it still does today. So now I'm back psychologically to the person I was. And I'm the reverse of you about, you're talking about one day closer to death. I'm not. I'm an extra day of life. That's the difference of me.
Yes, but the key is that so I know you are, Chris. That was my point. I know you are not the person that I was referring to. What I'm keen to know is, and I think I got the answer from what you were saying though, is what is it? What was it that made you the person that you are, not the person that might have been looking as it is one day closer to death? My guess is did you see that it gave you a kind of a purpose?
Yeah, I mean, what happened was I purely set up my work to help other people. That was my pure reason to do this, because I would, positive things were happening to me as well. And I thought, actually, like you said, Chris, when you hear that word cancer, your life is changed forever. And it doesn't, you might have a little cancer that they can cut out and you can happily go on your way, or you might have something totally different. But when you hear that word cancer, you never lose that shadow. That shadow is always there, that it might be coming back in a different form, in a different place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris, have you got, I don't know whether there's anything you want to, Chris Freer, that is, add into that, say, but what's your thing? Go on.
Just blown away by what you've said there, Chris. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, with your permission, I've written some notes here because, I relate to what you're saying so much as well about writing. I never wrote already, but I've just done a magazine article for, and I've done it with the help of my wife. I wouldn't have been able to do that without her. But we're learning new skills, mate, aren't we? And we're using them for good stuff.